Have a lovely day. And we
You
are
too.
fast approaching our next speaker, who is all the way from the Philippines. My goodness. Now, we have changed from the European continent. Now, we were in India, and now Dr. Romy Paredes is in the Philippines. Dr. Romy, I just want to connect with you before I introduce you. Are we connected, Dr. Romy? Namaste to
Yes,
you.
Dr. Lalit, we are very connected, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And
Namaste
help me
to
say your
everyone.
last name. How would I say your last name? Dr. Romy
Paredes. It sounds like Spanish.
Paredes.
Yeah, Paredes.
Paredes. Ah, okay. So here I know how to say his name correctly now. Dr. Romy Paredes from the Philippines. Let me tell you all about him. A super young gentleman. He is going to tell us about how to achieve mental and emotional health amidst the pandemic. Dr. Paradis is a visionary founder of the Wellness Land Health Institute and Wellness Land Wholeness Center, a leader in the field of natural and complementary health care and education. His holistic retreat center is his holistic retreat center is a member of the Holistic Centers Network, www.centersnetwork.org, an international network of holistic centers whose vision lies at the heart of each one. A commitment to transforming the lives of many thousands who attend their programs, as well as those who run them, by addressing the new consciousness emerging worldwide. He is also a public speaker and a retreat facilitator on various programs on wellness and wholeness. He has authored and co authored 7 books. Dr. Paradis is also the founder of the Self Health Empowerment Movement, a health awareness movement whose mission is to empower people to take control of their health. His holistic and transformative medical work is based in Cebu City in the Philippines, where he resides with his wife, Dr. Mila, and their lovely son, Michael. And to get connected with Dr. Romy, the website is www.wellnessland.org or www.shem, as in SHEM-ph.org. So this is all about Dr. Romy, and I am so excited to listen to Dr. Romy, like the audience that is international today, all about how we're going to get empowered with our own health. Dr. Romy, it's all yours now.
Namaste, everyone. Namaste, Dr. Lalit, and thank you for the privilege of being invited here to share with the Healing Our Earth team. So I'm a medical doctor from Cebu, Philippines, and I love listening to the first speaker, Dr. Mickey,
Absolutely.
because I totally resonate with what he's talking about. And a lot of what he's talking about, unfortunately, we did not learn it in medical school.
Yes.
So I was trained in conventional medicine, and I finished medical school in 1999. But after I finished medical school, I decided to walk the less traveled road of medicine because I realized early in my life as a physician that I was trained to treat the symptoms, not the root cause. But today, I'm going to share about the favorite topic of everyone who are having stress and anxiety and depression because of the pandemic. And so my topic is about achieving mental and emotional well-being. So if I may share my slide, Dr. Lalit.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, all right.
Yeah, pretty visible now. That's great.
All right. Thank you for the confirmation, Dr. Lalit.
No
So
worries.
mental and emotional health disruption can range from mild, you can be irritable, or you can have a difficulty of sleeping, or you can easily get angry, or it could be severe, like the clinical forms of major depression. So as a medical doctor, in practicing in Cebu, Philippines, I encounter all this range of cases. So these are some signs of mental and emotional health disruption, especially those who are not able to acknowledge yet their mental or emotional status. Maybe they are not aware. So it could be difficulty in smiling, or you could be chronically angry, or your breathing pattern is erratic. You know, usually when you go to a checkup, a lot of doctors do not even take a look at your breathing pattern. We only take a look at your laboratory parameters, or excessive fear, or difficulty in sleeping, or difficulty in focusing, or trouble understanding and relating to situations and to people, etc., etc. But the single and the biggest disruptor of our mental and emotional health is actually stress. And most people can relate to this. Most people can relate to stress because almost everybody is stressed in one way or another. I have a friend, his name is Albert, and his family name is Einstein, and he said, genius lies in making the complicated simple. It has been my work as a physician since I finished medical school in 1999 to simplify the complicated, because as a medical doctor, I was trained to complicate the simple. So in simple terms, stress is our inability to maintain our inner balance when confronted with external circumstances. So today, I'm going to share to you tools for achieving inner well-being. What is a tool? A tool is, as an analogy, for example, if I give you a hammer and I ask you to poke on that nail, as compared to someone who do not have a tool, the hammer, that someone who do not have a tool will have a harder time to poke on that nail, whereas that one who has a tool can do it easily. So that is the analogy of a tool. So the first tool that I'm going to share to you tonight is subtle diet. So as a physician, I do not know what to eat. I finished medical school, I do not know what to eat. I know what drugs to prescribe, but I do not know what to eat. I was anitarian before. You know, anitarian is not in the dictionary, meaning you eat anything. And then eventually I turned into more and more plant-based, whole food, low-fat diet as I learned more on nutrition after medical school. What I remember in my medical school, I think there was only 3 units of nutrition. Only 3 units, and a lot of the things that we learn is more on the pharmacology, is more on the treating the symptom. So what is subtle diet? The subtle energies of your food can become your mind, and this is what has Dr. Mickey been talking about earlier. Yes. The plant-based, the whole food, and the low-fat foods. Have you ever seen, let's say, a pork being slaughtered? You know, I became aware of this when I watched a pig. Sorry, when I watched a pig being slaughtered, and it's not subtle. The vibration is not subtle. There is so much fear in the pig, and we absorb that vibration. But then again, I never learned about the subtle energies of food in my medical school. Another tool that I could share tonight, which is again very simple, is just connect your feet to the ground, earthing, hug trees. So it's similar to what Dr. Mickey has shared earlier. I learned to prescribe a lot of medicines. For every symptom that you tell to the doctor, there is a medicine that is being prescribed. That was how I was trained. For example, if you have hypertension, I was trained to prescribe, several drugs to control your hypertension. But again, that is not treating the cause. It is only treating the symptom. So what is earthing? When you walk on dirt, sand, or grass barefoot, electrons enter your body through your feet. And researchers are discovering that these electrons are some of the most powerful antioxidants available. For most of my patients with anxiety, depression, or whatever form of nervousness, I prescribe this, and it is very powerful and it is free. All the patient has to do is to do it. Another tool that I would like to share to you today is vigorous exercise. There is a hormone in our body called serotonin, which is the feel-good hormone. And if we are not moving well, if we are just a couch potato, then that serotonin level goes down. So I prescribe vigorous exercise because vigorous exercise will move up the level of your serotonin, which is your feel-good hormone. Again, another thing that is very simple. Another tool is letting go of the mind. I think this has been discussed also by the first speaker. So through yoga and meditation, and there are so many ways to do this. There are so many schools and lineages that teaches yoga and meditation. So wherever and whatever you are comfortable of, go ahead and try it. Again, I finished medical school. I do not know all of these things. I do not know even how to meditate. So when you meditate regularly, your life shifts from being a mind-sensitive human doing into a life-sensitive human being. Another tool that I will share to you today is healing circles. This is one of the things that we do in our holistic center here in Cebu, Philippines. So we call it laboratory session. Again, from my medical background, we were so dependent on laboratory machines to tell you whether you are still healthy or not. So we look at your cholesterol, at your sugar, at your tumor marker, at your X-ray, but we have forgotten to listen intuitively to your story. So we created this word, laboratory, journeys to the heart of healing, inviting you on the path of change. So laboratory sessions opens a space for individuals to meet and support each other in a conscious journey towards communion, insight, and connection through dialogue and the heart of listening. So this is an example of a laboratory session. We form circles. We sit down in circles because we believe that a circle is a sacred geometry. And this is one of the retreats and the gatherings and the programs that we conduct here in our retreat center in Cebu, Philippines. Because to me now, dialogues or conversations brings back the symmetry of healing. It is a healing modality by itself. You know, in the usual consultation, which we learned in the usual medical setting, there is no symmetry between the patient and the doctor. The patient receives the prescription, the doctor gives the prescription. It's something like the patient is a drug user and the doctor is a drug pusher. So to me, dialogue is different because it brings back the symmetry and it is a healing modality by itself. Curing is the successful controlling or abatement of an illness that does not necessarily include alleviation of the emotional and psychological stresses that were part of the illness. Whereas healing is an active and internal process that includes investigating one's attitudes, memories, beliefs, and relationships to power. As an integrative medical doctor, I prefer this one, healing. Of course, healing can also encompass curing most of the time. As physicians, health workers, we have been trained to value and develop the intellect. We have become intellectuals, but we have often sacrificed our hearts, our emotions, our souls, our intuition, our basic human strength in the pursuit of expertise. What is the difference between intellect and intelligence? Intellect is knowledge. We gathered it, we accumulated it. Intelligence is wisdom. We realize it, but we didn't realize it before because we were not paying attention. Nowadays, my dear friends, there is so much information, but nobody is paying attention to the intuitive intelligence of our bodies. Intellect focuses on the parts. For example, I can specialize with a specific part of a human body like the eyes. But it is possible that I may know everything about your eyes, the anatomy, the physiology, the biochemistry of your eyes. But it is also possible that I no longer know a human being with an eye. Intelligence focuses on the whole. The part is always imperfect, but the whole is always perfect. There is nothing wrong with knowledge, but if knowledge is not in alignment with wisdom, it can lead to a tragedy. So this is a picture that depicts what intellect can do to a human being. We were professionally trained, legally allowed to do this to a human being. But if you pay close attention, if you open your heart, what do you see? What you see is suffering. What you see is pain. Another tool is a shift in perspective. We have to remember that all stress are internally generated. It is not about the traffic. It is not about your mother-in-law. It is not about the pandemic. It is not about the no job. Yes, these are stressors and you can handle it with the best of your capabilities. But remember that stress is internally generated. So let me explain this. Again, I did not learn this in medical school. I just, along the way, paying attention to a lot of patients for many years, since 1999. When a patient is stressed, the pathways of nourishment and the pathways of detoxification becomes narrow because the nervous system that is predominantly activated is the sympathetic nervous system, and there is contraction. And once there is contraction, healing, curing is very difficult to happen. Whereas on the other end, when we relax, the pathways of nourishment and the pathways of detoxification or cleansing or purifying, whatever term you like to use, the nervous system that is predominantly activated in our human body is parasympathetic, and there is expansion. Yes, there are times that we need some contraction, but in healing, there must be expansion. So healing is all about expansion. I call this the ultimate healing mechanism. So everything that you see on the left is an obstacle to healing. Stress, holding on, bitterness, self-centeredness, greediness, and most of all, fear. Now, all these things, you cannot find it in a laboratory examination. The laboratory test may say your tumor is in your brain, your tumor is in your lungs, your tumor is in your bones. But there's no laboratory machine that will say you are full of bitterness inside your heart, or you are full of fear. So on this side, this is where holistic healing happens. When we let go, when we forgive, when we go beyond ourselves, and when we transform fear to love. So love is the key. It opens all doors. Why not use the key, turn it, and see what happens? It will open up a new life for you, a life filled with joy and happiness. For when lives is flowing from you into the lives of those around you, it brings transformation. And I wrote a book about this. The title is, I co-authored a book about this. The title is Transformation Medicine, Pathways to Becoming Your Own Best Doctor. Together with a good friend of mine, his name is Pai. He is based in an eco village in Palawan, Philippines. He's the founder of that eco village. So establish first your wholeness before you dive into the doingness of life. Because if we dive into the doingness without establishing well our wholeness, we will end up stressed. Wholeness means you are already complete by yourself. And whatever you do or whatever you do not do, nothing will be added unto you anymore, and nothing will be subtracted unto you anymore. All your actions will become more conscious and less compulsive. A lot of actions are compulsive, but when we turn that compulsion into conscious action, then whatever we do, nothing will be added, nothing will be subtracted. The action just becomes a beautiful manifestation of who we are becoming. So slow down and taste and smell and hear and let your senses come alive. Did I become lazy? No, I simply vibrate from the beautiful mix of there's nothing I need to do anymore, and yet at the same time, I'm still full of action, but no longer compulsive action, but conscious action. This is called springing your doingness from your wholeness. Now let me give you a wider perspective. This is a picture taken by the Cassini-Huygens probe in 2004 when it arrived at the rings of Saturn. Let's contemplate on this picture for a few moments. My dear friends, this is our planet. Very small. We are all in that little blue point together. All our wars, all our problems, all our technology, and all our races and religions, all our love and hate, 7.5 billion souls in constant agitation. When I show this to my patients who seemingly have a very big problem, and when I show this to them, their problems dissolve. So this is the power of shifting our perspective. There are no problems, only possibilities. So to me now, even a tumor is not a problem. The problem is how we were trained to look at a tumor. Even a high blood pressure is not a problem. The problem is the way we are trained to look at the high blood pressure. Even a high blood sugar is not a problem. The problem is the way we were trained to look at the high blood sugar. We always look for solutions without trying to understand what is causing the problem. To me now, every disease, every symptom that the body portrays is just the body's wisdom, the body's vibration, the body's innate ability to talk to us. The problem, we are not paying attention to the intuitive intelligence of our bodies. So the fastest healing, my dear friends, is a healing of perception. Because when we heal our perception, we shift from the problem-solving mode into a problem-dissolving mode, and we understand deeper the problem. And the most powerful medicine is not a drug. The most powerful medicine is actually transformation. Because again, every symptom, every disease that the body portrays is just an invitation of the intuitive intelligence of our body. It's just a vibration telling us to transform. So we can turn our problem into opportunities. Pleasant experiences make life delightful. Painful experiences lead to growth. Suffering points of an area in you where you have not grown, where you need to grow and be transformed and changed. So at this point, I would like to share to you a summary of my painful yet beautiful transformation. Yes, at this young age, I went through a painful yet beautiful transformation. I was a pursuer before. Then eventually, I learned the wisdom of allowing. Before, I was a bookworm. I relied solely on knowledge. And now I embrace deeply divine wisdom. Before, I rely everything on my mind until I got burned out and stressed out many years ago. Then I realized to trust my intuition. Before, I was very competitive. Then I realized that competition is a mistake. It should be cooperation. from illusion of ownership to the realization of true abundance, from human doing to human being, from a fragmented human perspective to a wholeness divine perspective, from the illusion of separation that I am separate and I need to work hard, to the realization that we are all one in this web of vibrations, from a box concept of God to a cultivating awareness of the wholeness of God, and from fear to love. Rumi said, the wound is the place where the light enters us. And maybe we are searching among the branches for what only appears in the roots. The magic ingredient of a great mental and emotional health is joyfulness. If there is a healing power of happiness. It is very difficult to be joyful when we are so full of ourselves. The mind is very full of junks. So many layers we have created in our lifetime, layers that we have identified ourselves to be. The problem is when we get identified with these layers. So well-being and inner peace outperforms all asset class in the long term. So, my dear friends, it is wise to invest on our inner well-being. Most people invest on external well-being. They forget to invest on inner well-being. So happiness is a subjective state of well-being. It is the ease, the flow, and the spontaneity. So 3 types of happiness: pleasure, short-term happiness; passion, longer term. But when you go beyond yourself, when you realize that you are more than who you think you are, your higher purpose, then it becomes very, very long-term. Lastly, I would like to share to you briefly the 7 keys to joyfulness. Number 1, be aware of your body. Your body holds deep wisdom. Trust in it, learn from it, nourish it, pay attention to the whispers of your body. When your blood pressure goes up, it is a whisper of your body. When a tumor pops out in your breast, it is a wisdom, it is a whisper of your body. All you need to do is listen first to what your body is saying. Some time ago, I do not understand when a patient tells me that she is trying to talk to her breast tumor. Now, I tell them, you can talk to your breast tumor. Of course, the language is not in English. The language is in the form of a tumor. So what is the tumor saying? Number 2, live in the present moment. If you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living on the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present. So Gautama the Buddha said, the secret of health for both mind and body is not to mourn for the past, nor to worry about the future, but to live the present moment wisely and earnestly. So this is what Dr. Miki has said earlier. The mind is very full here, whereas here it becomes more empty, yet more profound and powerful. Number 3, embrace silence. The moment you start embracing silence, you start knowing the vibrations of your soul. So silence is very important. Number 4, relinquish your need for external approval. Unconsciously, we layer upon layer upon layer our lives because of that need for external approval. This is an example of the layers of life. Now, don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with these layers because they are just our social identities. The problem is if we get identified with our social identities. So wisdom occurs when we drop the barriers we have erected through our concepts and conditioning. So as a trained medical doctor, it was difficult for me, especially in the beginning, to let go of the barriers that I have erected through my concepts and conditioning. Freedom lies inside the heart, not in external circumstances. The solid, nutritious food of life is not just the plant-based, the whole food, the low-fat food, the vegetarian food, but also meaningful work, play, fun, laughter, company of people, etc. And the drugs of life, approval, appreciation, and attention. Number 5, relinquish your anger. I have a lot of patients, especially cancer patients, who have deep anger, bitterness for many years. So meaning they were so contracted for many years. So holding on to anger is like drinking a poison and expecting the other person to die, according to Gautama Buddha. Another illusion is that external events have the power to hurt us, that other people have the power to hurt us. They don't have the power. It is you who give this power to them. And number 6, don't judge yourself and others. I believe judgment creates a contraction. Non-judgment creates an expansion. And number 7, lastly, replace fear with love. Fear is a very powerful vibration that closes you, and love is a very powerful vibration that opens you. And in my experience, my dear friends, the moment a patient is diagnosed, the moment a patient is labeled with the disease, that is the beginning of their contraction, and they contract even more. That's why to me, there is also power of words, because words are also vibrations. Diagnosis labels, diagnosis names can also be labels, and they can contract people. To me now, there are only 2 bottom line root causes of diseases. Whatever is the cause, whatever is the name of your disease, whether you can understand it or not, whether you can spell it or not, it boils down to the 2 bottom line root causes, which is toxicity and deficiency. Toxicity means something is there in your body that is not supposed to be there. And deficiency means something is not there in your body that is supposed to be there. So to me now, to simplify the complicated, whatever is your diagnosis, there are only 2 bottom line root cause: toxicity and deficiency. If you have a toxicity, purify, cleanse, and if you have a deficiency, nourish, not just the physical food, but also the energy foods. Again, I have shown this a while ago. So too often we give others the power of controlling our emotions. So let's replace fear, hate, and anger with love, and we will be free. So true happiness lies within ourselves. It doesn't come from others. It doesn't come from external circumstances. So the way to really live is to die. Die to our programming, die to our conditioning, and die to our illusions. And these are our websites, which has been mentioned already a while ago, except for the transformation-medicine.com. That's our website. So thank you very much, and namaste to all of you. Thank you, Dr. Lalit, for...
A global namaste, Dr. Romy. This was an amazing presentation. You moved very quickly with your slides in the share screen, but your contact details right at the end was an amazing slide. If you don't mind, we could bring that slide up again, where you have got your websites and your contact numbers, etc. And I think this is something, there we go. That's the one. Yeah, so you know what? You didn't even give me time to take a picture of it. You were very fast with it. So I'm going to take your contact details on my phone, and amazing. So my God, where do I start with you, Dr. Romy? This session, I couldn't get my eyes off the screen. I couldn't get my ears listening to anything else. A very concentrated and a very in-depth lecture that you've given us today. But I have a few questions out of this, Dr. Omi. Is that okay to ask you some?
Sure, Dr. Lalit, sure.
My main concern, I'm not concerned, but my main question to you is, what was it that changed you from fear onto love? What was it that made you the medical doctor that you are today? Because this is not what they teach us at medical school. They teach us drugs, they teach us diseases, and they teach us injections, and they teach us that. There is, as you said, there is nothing taught about well-being. What was that change that came about you? And I'm really curious to know that.
Yes, and I would love to share it to the audience, Dr. Lalit.
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, there were many turning points in my life as a physician, but one of the most powerful turning points happened before I finished medical school. I was in the internship years. That was the last year of medical school. I came from a 48-hour duty meaning 48 hours I was at work, and I was about to go home. And on my way home, I was carrying my backpack, and on my way home, I was going out of the hospital, and I happened to be passing by a pediatric ward. And in that pediatric ward, while I was walking, I saw a little boy, bald, vomiting, and shouting to his parents that he doesn't like it anymore. So, as a physician who saw that, I knew what was going on. He was undergoing a treatment. He was undergoing a medical treatment, and he was experiencing the side effects of those treatments. I don't know what happened to me that day. That was 20 years ago, Dr. Lalit.
Wow.
And I stopped walking. I looked at them, and I couldn't hold my tears to flow, because what I saw that day was not an image of healing, but an image of destruction. And yet, we were intellectually trained to do that to a human being. Then I walk away that day with a big question in my head. So, what is authentic healing all about? Then, after that, after I finished medical school, I do not know where to go. I thought I wanted to specialize on a part of your body. I do not know where to go. And then but I still remember that day I went to the registrar's office of the medical school, and maybe I want to specialize with the eyes. No, I don't like, until I reach the bottom. The bottom is NOTA, N-O-T-A, none of the above.
I like
That
that.
was one of the powerful turning points. I think that was the day 20 years ago that the arrogance of my mind began to surrender. And that was the day that the genius of my heart began to open.
Wow. What an amazing story. It's that little incidence that's the switch on, switch off thing. Was the
Yes.
little kid that you
Yeah.
saw who was crying that he didn't like or enjoy being in the hospital, and that changed your thought processes.
Yes, because I saw that little boy vomiting. I saw that little boy losing hair.
Sure.
And I saw his hands very black. So I knew what was going on. He was undergoing a treatment for cancer.
Sure, sure. But this is a super amazing shift in mind in terms of your whole well-being. You changed totally. Even today, amongst your lectures that we were seeing, there were a lot of quotes from Buddha and Buddhism there. So there is a lot of internal well-being, and you have literally touched for the tools, the 7 tools that you said of achieving inner well-being, and then the 7 tools of achieving joyfulness. So your outlook to health has totally changed.
Yes, it has totally changed through the years. Ironically, Dr. Lalit, my favorite subject in medical school is pharmacology.
Oh,
where it was one of my, in all humility, it was one of my highest grades, meaning I'm very familiar with the pharmacology.
sure.
Little did I know that sometime later in my work as a physician, I would start to tell people that there is another way.
And a big another way. And you can see where the whole health paradigm is heading towards well-being, wellness.
Yes, that's right.
No,
Because in spite of all the knowledge that we have accumulated through the years, it is undeniable that there are more diseases today than ever before.
absolutely.
Hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular disease is epidemic. Cancer is becoming also epidemic.
We're looking at COVID as a pandemic, but look at the other underlying ones that are already killing so many people. Isn't that true?
That is very true, Dr. Lalit. And in fact, the COVID, which has locked down many people, of course, will aggravate more cardiovascular and chronic diseases.
Yes. And I think this is where your tips of inner well-being, and especially you talked about the subtle diet that you have with, which is very much plant-based, and Dr. Mickey alluded to that. I mean, the health concepts were so similar between the two of you. It's just how we are dealing with it. The subtle diet you talked about, which is all plant-based, was again a quote which was from the Indian Vedic books called the Upanishads. And
Yeah.
that was what people, I think, as you said, in this COVID time, should be really focusing on is their well-being with diet, as you said, with earthing and grounding of ourselves. And as you also said, vigorous exercises. And very much I remember from Dr. Mickey's conversation, he said, don't exercise like an animal, don't eat like an animal. So exercise and diet are virtually very, very important points for well-being and wellness.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Now, I also wanted to ask you a couple more questions about some of the books that you have authored.
Sure.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your books that you have authored.
Okay, so most of the books that I have authored are easy to read. You can read it in one flight
Okay.
because it is my life work to simplify the complicated because I'm so sick and tired of the complications of our knowledge. So one of the book that it's mostly empowering people to take control of their health. For example, one of the title is "Your Own Best Doctor Is You." Yes, it is you. So we always tell we are not here to cure you or to heal you. We are here to empower you because ultimate healing, authentic healing comes not from the doctor, but from the patient. Yes, of course, we can share our vibrations. We can share our words. But if the patient is not open, if the patient is contracted inside, no matter what we do, it has a difficult time penetrating. The other book is Sacred Simplicity, The Ultimate Sophistication. It shares about my story of simplification, from diagnosing people with a lot of diagnostic names like I tell people before when I was in medical school, oh, you have a systemic lupus erythematosus that people also could not understand. Oh, you have a adenocarcinoma of the lungs. Oh, you have squamous cell carcinoma of the nose. So all those are medical terms. It is nice, but I realize that the more we complicate the wordings, most people contract. Their vibrations contract, their cells contract in fear. Another book is Transformation Medicine. I co-authored it with another author. His name is Pai Villarasa. He's the founder of Maya Earth Village. It's an eco village in the Philippines. It's one of the few eco villages in the Philippines. They are in a plant-based, they are in a sustainable community. I go there every now and then. My co-author lives there. So it's all about practical tips on transforming our lives to becoming our own best doctor.
Perfect.
The last one is Becoming Whole. The last one that I wrote is Becoming Whole, the beautiful liberating path towards wholeness.
Perfect, perfect. Now, where are these books available, if I may very quickly ask you that?
Yeah, it's all available in our website, www.wellnessland.org.
Thank you. Dr. Rumi, this was an amazing presentation, a lot of information, and a lot of good things on wellness and well-being. We want to make sure that we stay happy and joyful. You've shared some amazing, important material with us. And on behalf of Healing Our Earth team and myself personally, I thank you very much for coming here today, all the way from the Philippines, and sharing your abundance knowledge that you have with us. So thank you very much for that. And I really, really appreciate, and a big namaste once again from the Healing Our Earth team. Dr. Romy will definitely be connecting with you.
Thank you, Dr. Lalit, and thank you for the privilege of sharing here. Namaste to everyone.
Namaste, and have a very pleasant day there. Now, time very, very quickly flies. We are just a couple